The abandoned settlements came out of two basic ideas, one of which was an interest in how that metaphor of abandoned places is similar to the way in which perhaps we might look at things we've left behind, people we've left behind, places we've left unfulfilled in some way. These things quite often haunt us. So I was interested in the idea of perhaps haunting them back by projecting my inner eye, I suppose, back to these places and actually speaking to them in some way. The other idea is connected with that. It was something I found myself saying to students who I was mentoring a lot, that I think it was Rilke had said that poetry is something sung over a void. So I think he was thinking of the Orpheus myth, but I was interested in this idea that that when we write a poem, sometimes it is addressed to an other, which is some distance away from us. So there are lots of second-person poems in there. So the collection as a whole takes these two ideas and tries to act a bit like a ghost in these places which are already haunted in their own way, and tries to find some way of having those ghosts interact with each other. One particular thing is that, like many people, I'm interested in abandoned settlements, these strange places around the world which for one reason or another have become deserted. And partly because when I was very young, a baby actually, I lived in one which later on became an abandoned settlement. It's an area of Cyprus called Varosha, which was abandoned overnight in 1974. And I'd been back to have a look over the wall at it because it's still a desettled place, and probably never will be resettled. So there's that idea of personal archaeology in there as well. I'm an extraordinarily slow writer of poetry, and I don't use notebooks, and I don't have any real idea of that there is another poem to come after I've written one. I'm always a bit scared that it might be my last one. The way I write poetry or compose poetry is I spend quite a lot of time wandering around trying to put it together in my head before approaching paper in any way. So that can take many weeks, and sometimes it comes out of a single phrase that I then try and add another line to, and so on. So I do literally quite often spend weeks or even longer trying to put a poem together in my head, so that when I sit down it comes out pretty much as I want it, because I'm very familiar with it. And in this case, in the case of the abandoned settlements, it was just meditating on those places and people, etc., that I had somehow felt that I left behind in a ruined or a semi-ruined state. Not them necessarily, but the situation between us. And thinking of the images that came out of those memories and trying to put them together into a poem each time, and then when it had done, move on to the next one. So they accumulate over time.